Hey there, your old pal Mustache Man here again. Another post-jiu-jitsu rant. Today I want to tell you about my adventures in Nicaragua for the Fuego y Agua survival run. I'd like to tell the story because it's pretty damn entertaining, and for my own prosperity, because I'm gonna get old and I'm gonna forget the details, and I'm sure I forgot a bunch of details anyway, and it's a pretty damn entertaining story. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, and I don't know the year, didn't research it, but it was at the height of when we were doing Tough Mudders and World's Toughest Mudders and whatnot, and a guy named Josue Stevens was putting on this. It's called the Fuego y Agua, Fire and Water Survival Run, with the tagline, "You will not survive," I think it was. And I love that. Because let's face it, after a couple World's Toughest Mudder, the danger side of it was getting lost. The endurance was always there. The toughness of the events are always there. If I wanted to just do a tough event, I would have done selection and I would have got killed, because I'm not that guy. I liked going into the unknown, the scariness of it. So I was all on board. I was like, man, I got to go to Nicaragua. But the catch was I was unemployed. I had no money. But I had a very understanding wife. Anyway, we made it happen. But I'm jumping ahead because so Josue announced this online, and then I found out Josue was like a race director at one point for Spartan. That's all I knew of the guy. A lot of my friends in the community were friends with him. They knew him. And it was an invite. I think it was an invite only, or you had to apply. I think, yeah, that's it. You had to apply to get into the race. You couldn't just enter. That's it. Yeah, and I sent my application. I think you just had to say, like, what you've done before. Have you done ultras before? Stuff like that. And I didn't hear back from him. And then a couple of people I know were getting accepted. I think, like Joel Gatt, who's, big in the ultra community. Good dude. And I think people were posting online, and I said something like, yeah, I never heard back from Josue. And then I think it was Joel who vouched. He says, hey, he tagged Josue. He's like, hey, man, you didn't get this guy's application? And then Josue accepted me, so I got accepted. And then along with my other Lords of Coventry leader, basically, War Chief Jason Gadesco, he got in. So that was going to be great. It was going to be two of us. And then he got a friend named Billy. I forget his last name, Billy. So the three of us left from Pennsylvania. And we went down together as a group. So anyway, but before that, the race was to take place on these two volcanoes in the middle of Lake Nicaragua in Nicaragua. If you look at a map of Nicaragua, I guess Lake Nicaragua, I could be wrong, but it's the largest freshwater lake in the world. That might be wrong. Doesn't sound right. So the Great Lakes, are they saltwater? I don't know. Anyway, big ass lake in the middle of the country, and then right in the middle of that lake are two sister volcanoes back side by side. So that's where we were heading in Central America. And Josue put out this announcement that it'd be great if you could donate as many lightly used sneakers, athletic shoes for the local kids, or on the island, because it's kind of impoverished. It's not there's no like big luxury resorts on this place. It's Nicaragua. So at my gym, which I made that Tough Mudder training video, I put up an announcement, and Obi helped me organize it. He's the owner of the gym. And please donate whatever you can, your old sneakers. And he put up a big, like, oil drum kind of thing. And it filled up. All these people just donated their sneakers. It's like, whoa, I didn't expect that much. And he had to get a second one. I got 2 whole of those big oil drums, those big blue oil drums, full of lightly used, Nike, Adidas, Reebok, tons of sneakers. It was great. I was like, whoa, this is great. I'm going to have a lot to donate to these kids. So we get to the airport. So the airfare, we get to the airfare, we get secured. Get to the airport. I think I had two suitcases, one with my gear and my Camelback and whatnot, running gear. And then the other one or two, maybe I had 2 more, was just full of sneakers, jam full of sneakers, big. And then I think and then I had a backpack too, a giant knapsack, an army knapsack, which was just full of sneakers. Go to check in the luggage, and they're like, all right, this is going to cost this much extra because it's so heavy. And then I'm like, oh man. And then I'm like, can we divvy this up to my other buddies, because they didn't reach the limit with their luggage. So the guy's like, yeah, do what you can. So I remember splitting it up among their luggage, and I remember Billy, he was just being a pain in the ass. He was just like, oh man. And then they're like, all right, well, you got everything, but you're gonna have to pay $50 for this one bag. I go, can you guys help out? Billy's like, I don't want to help out. He didn't want to help pay. And look, you got to know that I was virtually penniless. I wasn't working for a long time. And being a mustache man does not pay the bills. So anyway, that all got taken care of, and we got all the sneakers on board. We got to Nicaragua, and we get off on what's the name of the city? Shit. Not Medora. Managua? Oh, fuck. Sound like an idiot now. Anyway, we're in the main, I don't know if it might even be the capital of Nicaragua. We're in the big, get off the airport, and then, and there's the guys walking around with these AKs or M16s or whatever. Like, that was kind of jarring. Hadn't seen that since 9/11 in Newark. But and then we hopped in a cab, I believe. Or no, we rented a car. That's right. Yeah, so we rented a car. Jason rented a car. We start driving through Nicaragua looking for this. So I believe Jason secured a place for us to stay right on the beach. Well, most of the on the island of Ometepe is the one volcano. On the island of Ometepe, it's pretty much every place is on the beach, kind of, because it's just a volcano, and then you're right around the rim. But it was an expat, this woman who lived there. She was American, and she got this house built right on the sand, and he found it pretty cheap. So we were heading there, but first we had to figure out how to get there. So we landed in the airport, and we got this car, and I heard a rumor, and I think it's true, that the U2 song "Where the Streets Have No Name" is based on Nicaragua, because we had directions to the place, to the ferry. We had to get on the ferry that took us to the island, and the directions were like, when you come to a billboard, make a right. When you see a red barn stop and turn left, and shit like that. Like, whoa, this is kind of sketchy, but we made it. And then I think did we have smartphones at the time that had GPS? But the GPS wasn't working. Third world, man. But we found our way to the ferry, and we drove the vehicle onto the ferry, the rental, got on the ferry, made it to the island. The sun was setting. We get on the island. It's dark. Again, no street signs. We're winding our way around this main road on the island, and we drive, and it comes right to a fucking chain link fence across the road. Boom. We're like, what? We have to keep going. Like, that's where we're supposed to go. And we look out, we get out, like, we want to get out, and it's at night, and there's, it's not like a city, so there's no light pollution. So it's just dark. And one of us got out. It could have been me, because Jason was driving. And I looking at the chain link fence, and I'm looking through at night, and I couldn't see anything. Like, I didn't know if it was a house, and I see the thing's on rollers. I'm like, oh, I guess I could just roll this chain link fence to the side, and we could keep going. Like, this is where we have to go. So I roll the chain link fence to the side. I'm like, I just go. And he drove real slow. We're driving, and we come across this tarmac. Long story short, it was an airport, and we were driving right across where the plane's supposed to land. And then we go through, and then we go out the other side. I don't know if there was another chain link fence, but we kept going. So it was just fenced off. The road that you're supposed to drive on goes right across the airport. Well, airport, landing strip, I should say. So anyway, make it there. We did find that woman's house. Beautiful, beautiful. I mean, not gigantic by any means. It was, it was for one woman, but it was, how should I say? Like, it was like an Architectural Digest kind. It was like made with like stacked like rocks, like polished. I think like they were like river rocks and old hardwood, stained dark. Hardwood floors. She had a big old hammock hanging across the living room. It was tastefully done, really nice, and it's a pretty impoverished area too. Like this, then like 50 feet away is people living in just a cinder block house, like just cinder blocks. But anyways, we found the house. We stayed with the woman. She's a pleasant woman. So that was it. We made it there, wake up in the morning. And then I think there was another guy there with his girlfriend. He was staying there, and he was going to do the race as well. He was from Jersey. I forget his name. Good dude. Dan, I think. Dan. Anyway. So I think the next day there was a race meeting called, and we're supposed to be down by the water at let's say 1:00 in the afternoon. So we all make our way. We hop in the car, and we find, when we meet up with a bunch of other group. Turns out that there was only 35 of us doing the survival run. There was also an ultra marathon as well. I can't remember what the distance was at. That was different. And I should say, the survival run, we didn't know what to expect. Like, we didn't know if there was going to be obstacles or what. We just knew that it was going to be a taste of Nicaraguan life. It's all right. So we get to this first meeting everybody, and there was, a bunch of Americans there, and there was one local guy from the island. Yeah, people from all over, actually. The world. So the meeting starts at 1. Josue, he's talking, going over stuff I don't even remember. And then he's like, all right, so if you want your race bibs, and he looks over his shoulder, and there was a rowboat, probably like half mile, quarter mile, half mile out in the water, floating. And he's like, there's your race bibs. You got to go get them now. So it was like, oh man, like Jason, I remember Jason, he had like a button down shirt and his, khakis, shorts and sandals. And, I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt probably. I can't even remember. And, no, I think I might have had my swim trunks on. Anyway, nobody expected to jump in the water right then and there. But in order to get our race bibs, we had to get in the water right there and swim out to the rowboat and get our bibs. And we all jumped in and headed, and two people dropped right there. Like, they couldn't make the swim. I can't remember if there was somebody there to save him. I just remember one person was really lagging behind, and then when I got out of the water, they're like, yeah, we lost 2 people already. And it was a tough swim. You swim out, water's a little choppy, you get to the edge of the boat, and you could hang on the edge, and then you tell them your name, and they write it down, and then they give you the bib, and then, many people didn't have pockets. You just put it in your mouth, and you swim back. It was pretty entertaining. I was having a blast. So you get your bibs, and then he's like, all right, we get back, everyone's drying off, and he's like, all right, report back here or somewhere like right up the road at 3 a.m. Okay. And we leave, we go back to the place, and we get our stuff prepped, and then we get ready to run. We wake up at 3, we get to the starting thing, and it was, night. We all had headlamps on, a bunch of racers. I'll never forget too, we were driving to the start, and there was like a small town square. When I say town square, it wasn't like a big town, but there was an open, like, grassy area where it was like a turnaround there, and there was a freshly slaughtered, like, giant ox or something, like they have these big beasts that carry, probably seen it on TV, where those big black beasts that drag carts behind them. Anyway, one of those had just been slaughtered, and it's just pool of blood. And these guys were harvesting it, and it was crazy. I was like, wow, you don't see this in America, but so anyways, we get to the start line, and everyone's standing around with their headlamps, and I had my buff on, and they said, come over. There was these cages with all these chickens, and the race director's like, all right, everybody grab a chicken. So we all got in line and just grabbed a chicken. Now, I had never held a chicken before. I had seen chickens. I know what they look like. I used to eat them, but I didn't know how the technique of holding a chicken. So I grabbed the chicken, and he's obviously flapping around, much like everybody else. And he's like, all right, so ready, go. And you had to run. And I think we had maps. To follow, or we had to be at a certain spot. I can't remember how we knew where the hell we were going. No, you know what? There were signs written down where to go. So we headed this way, and our idea was to, just like the world's toughest, which worked for us in 2012, where you just keep going, don't stop, stay at a decent pace, not run, not jog, just a brisk walk, and never slow down, and just keep going. And that was our And it was a faulty plan because there's a cutoff. There was cutoff times. Like, so looking back, we probably should have hoofed it a little better. But anyways, because I think the race was it might have been 24 hours or 40. I can't remember if it had a time limit on it. So, carrying the chicken, I figured out a way. I took off my buff and wrapped it around my chicken and held it facing outwards. So it was wrapped up, nice, swaddled like a little baby. And as I'm running, it was watching where we were going. And it was pretty neat because its head was like, it was gyroscopes or like a steady cam where no matter how you move, its head stays in one spot. That's what the chicken's head was doing. Anyway, so you're running with this chicken, and the racers split up. Some people fall back, some people go ahead, and we're on our own. We kept going. And then, long story short, we realized we weren't going the right way. So we probably went 1.5 miles wrong way, had to double back, come back another 1.5 miles. So that was a nightmare. And we didn't know, you didn't know how long you were supposed to carry this chicken. I'm like, me and this chicken gonna be friends for 24 hours? And then what, do I have to eat them at the end? Because I don't eat chicken. but we kept going, and then we were on a road then. It was a paved road. And we see a cop lights in the distance next to a pickup truck. So, and we're like, well, we're on the right path. We can keep going. And as we get closer to the cops, he's pointing us over at the pickup truck. And he pushes us over, and it sucked because none of us spoke Spanish. I wish my buddy Ramon had done it with us. But they pointed us to the guy in the pickup, and then he had cages with the chickens. So he took our chickens. And so we got rid of the chicken there after, I don't know how many miles, 5 miles. And then the cops, we go over to the cops, and the cops put out your hand. They tell us, put out your hands. And then they zip tie us. They gave us zip ties. So they zip tied our hands, and then they just pointed, keep going. So, all right, well, now we're zip tied, and we just keep going. We're running. I forgot now. I just remembered it as I was talking, because I remember that road. There were tests along the road where verbal, or like puzzles we had to solve and shit like that, and I forget what they were. They were like, God, like, I can't, for the life of me, I can't remember what they were. It was like blocks, like they showed you an image of 4 blocks and then closed it, and then you had to duplicate what you just saw. That might have been later on in the race, because that can really be tough when you're running for 10, 12 hours. You're not thinking straight. Yeah, I forgot about that little aspect. I think there were like 2 or 3 stations of that. Anyway, so we're running, and then with the zip ties, I can't remember how that ended. Eventually, we ran into a cop again. They took our zip ties off. Then there was another little aspect of the race where we had to get a bundle of sticks, right? So it was like what they use for firewood in Nicaragua. These long sticks. They're probably, I don't know, 4 feet long. And gather them up into a bundle of, was it 50 or 70 pounds? I can't remember what it was. You had to make it up, and you had to wrap it up yourself. You were supposed to have your own strapping. You tie it up, and then you weigh it. They had a scale, and it had to be 50 or more. And then, so it sucked because I'd be just estimating what I thought was 50 pounds. You wrap it up, you get it so it's really tight, and then you hang it, you put it up, and they're like, oh, it's not right, or You know what I mean? So then you have to loosen it and then either put more in, or eventually you get it to 50. Then once you get it to 50, now it's your job to carry it. For how long, you don't know. And then they were going to obviously weigh it when you got to your destination. So you couldn't fill it up and then drop 10 pounds on the way, and then so they want to catch you. So you knew you wouldn't lose any. And that's what sucked for me. Because as I was doing it, I kept dropping sticks and stopping, and it was just such a pain in the ass because it wasn't cinched tight, I guess. But it was funny because as we're doing this, I swear to God, there's an old woman walking along the beach with the same type of bundle on her back. And I'm bitching the whole time. I'm like, fucking, this sticks are digging into my back, and this sucks. This old woman, it's a woman, and she's walking with a bundle just as big as mine, like the cover of that Led Zeppelin album. And she's not complaining at all, you know? And it was crazy. It was like, yeah, this is a little slice of their life. So I started to piece it together. I'm like, oh, I see what's happening. You know, we're doing what, you know, the zip tie and the chicken, and I see what's happening. It's a little slice of Nicaraguan life. So, and we got through that. That was the worst, just carrying those sticks. Then, this is way out of order because it's been years. I know we had to carry a log. Wasn't that big a log, you know? It was, you know, that big. I forget. I remember we had to go along the beach, and then we were going to drop it off on the beach somewhere. And what I did, instead of carrying it, I put my strap around it, and I drug it along the surf, the break there, and so it floated, so it was virtually weightless. So I wasn't carrying anything, I was just dragging it. And these little kids, I think these little kids were swimming and laughing, and they saw me dragging it, and they're looking at me and laughing, and I go, my puppy. And I pet it. I told them to come pet my puppy. They were laughing. Anyway, so we made it through that, dropped off the log, and then we had to dig in the sand to find a piece of the metal that you get. I forgot about this too. So, and I don't even know if I still have these. The medals you get for running this race, it was like 4 pieces or 3. I think 3 or 4 pieces of the medal. It was a square, and it said, I did not quit or something. I did not quit, each one. So the first one would say I did, and then you get the third one said quit. So it said I did quit, but if you made it all the way, you get the word not. So it says I did not quit. So when we dropped off the log that we were dragging along the beach, we had to dig a hole and find. There was like this designated area, but it was pretty big. You just had to dig with your hands and try and find, I think it was the piece of the metal. You know, it was like one of the I did it or not, or whatever. So I found that. And then the next part was to go to, what was that? There was some other part. I just remember there was we had to get to one part of the island, and we were supposed to swim across this freshwater bay area, and then supposedly there's freshwater sharks that are in there. And then it just happened to be right at the beach where the place we were renting was, and the woman was there, and we were talking to her, and she's like, oh, go with the Manuel here. He knows how to get that. He'll take you to that point, and you don't have to swim across this bay because that'll take you forever. So we kind of cheated in a way. This guy showed us the shortcut through these woods, and he got us to the spot where we had to go. So that was kind of neat. In the end, it didn't really help much because we got that. There was another part of the race where we had to carry, or we had to climb up a palm tree and get these. There were these rubber wristband things, and we had to climb up the tree to get them. But since we were near the back of the pack, all the lower hanging ones were gone, and the high ones, and it was over like cement, the palm tree. So I was like, all right, I'm exhausted, and if I fall once out of the tree trying to get this highest, it was really high up there, I'm like, I don't want to die. This is not worth it. So scratch that. I said, all right, you know what? I didn't get it. I'm good. I'm not going to break my neck for, for this rubber bracelet. So there was that. Another part of the race was we had to carry these like 10-foot bamboo poles, and we're going up the, here we go. We had to take these bamboo poles and then use them to climb up a tree, I think. We did that and get something out of this tree. And then lastly, we had these 10-foot poles, and we were going up the mountain. We were going up the volcano, carrying them, and that's when my cramps started hitting really hard, like my leg cramps, because I get calf cramps really bad. I didn't know it back then, and I took everything to stop getting cramps. I used to down salt pills and Hammer Nutrition. I used to get their supplements that guarantee no cramps, and I did everything I could to stop getting cramps, and nothing worked. Nothing. So my cramps got really bad going up that mountain, and I felt really bad having to keep stopping and telling my buddies, guys, I got to pull over, or I got to stop, and ultimately I think that's where we got DNF'd, because we just took too much time, and we're like, you're not going to make it to the top of the up to the top of the volcano in time. So we had to just make our way back down, and we were fine. And it turned out, we found out that only 2 people finished the race, and one guy was the local guy. Man, I forget his name. I'm a Facebook buddy too. He was a beast. And one other American, he made it. And then when you had to get up, see, this is what I didn't find out. When you get up to the top of the volcano, there was like some water in there, and then you had to swim to the bottom of the water, and then to get this other piece. And I think only those 2 guys did that, because then once you get there, and then I think that's the end. I think then you make your way down the volcano, right? I can't remember. It's so long. Anyway, needless to say, it was an adventure. And I forgot to mention too, we when it came to the sneakers, so I told you about the big bag of sneakers we took, the massive amount. And when we got to that woman's house that we stayed with, she's like, oh my God, my neighbors would love this stuff. Like, if you could give, a couple of kids, there's some families that live nearby, and if you could give them their first pick of the sneakers, and then, donate the rest to Josue in the race. I'm like, yeah, man, that's fine. And she says, okay, but don't bring the sneakers out. Don't show the kids all the sneakers. Like, I'm like, well, why? I want them to be able to pick the ones they want. She goes, you don't understand. Like, they can't comprehend that it'd be too overwhelming for them to see that vast amount for them to choose from. So just get a small batch of them and, 5 or 6 pairs. I'm like, okay, but I don't know their sizes, but all right. And we did that. And then she brought them over. She called the kids over and we sat out on the patio and these kids were blown away. They're cutest kids, man. And it was so funny because one of the pairs was like the light up kind that you walk and they light. And the kid was, the little cute kid was so blown away. He saw these, he's putting them on. He's like, whoa. And they were like 2 sizes too big for him. And he wanted them so bad, but they're like, everyone's like saying, they don't fit you. They don't fit you. And he's walking around trying them out and they're making them light up and stuff. And I was like, let him have them. I go, he can have those and then I'll get another pair. And she's like, no, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. I can't remember. I think he did. I think we did give him those. That would have broken my heart if I wouldn't have let him have those. So I think we might have given him the 2 pairs. But anyways, yeah, but of all the things, that was the most memorable thing that happened for that whole run was the kids giving them sneakers. And the food was damn good. We found this place. It was, just a short walk from where we rented the place. And it was just a small, no big signs. It was just a house that had a patio and they cooked some great fresh meals. And I remember one time the power went out on the island and they just like, no big deal. They kept cooking. They used fire and they cooked us meals and we ate well. And then to cap it off then, so race is done. We're ready to leave the next day. We go down to the ferry and ready to hop on the ferry and the waves were choppy. And we had a flight, that evening. And we had to return the rental car and all that. So we're waiting and then no ferry. Ferry didn't show up at its designated time. And then we hear through somebody who could translate their Spanish that ferries are canceled for the day. So we were stuck on the island. They're like, you can't leave. The water's too choppy and the ferries aren't running. So I can't remember if I had to call my home and tell them and our tickets, our flights, we had to buy another ticket because it was crazy. I had no money. And on top of that, geez, I'm rambling, but on top of that, I was collecting unemployment at the time. And if you've ever collected unemployment, you have to like go on your phone and plug in, did you look for work? Yes, or blah, blah, blah. And you have to just fill it out. So when I was in Nicaragua here, I filled out my unemployment for Pennsylvania. Just sent it in, done. I get back and months later, they're like, hey, see here, you filed for unemployment. You were in Nicaragua. I'm like, yeah. What were you doing in Nicaragua? Oh, were you looking for work in Nicaragua? I'm like, no, I wasn't looking for work. It says here you said you were looking for work. I said, no, I wasn't. So they refused my unemployment for that week. All right. So going back, ferry was canceled. We had to buy tickets for the next day and we had to call that lady up that we rented from. Hey, can we rent for one more night? All more money added up, which I didn't have at the time. I remember Jason footed the bill and then I had to pay him back, which I was so grateful for. And yeah, eventually made it off that island and then made it back home. And all I have is a story to tell, which is why I'm doing this. Yeah, it's crazy stuff, man. And they had it a couple of years later. They did it again. I didn't go the second year. I know a bunch of people that did. I don't know how it differed. And I think they didn't have it. I think there might have been some political issues with the country. I can't remember. I think Josue didn't hold it then for a couple of years. And I think I saw something where he was doing it again. but I don't know. But it was definitely fun, man. It was definitely something. I'm glad I did. Totally glad I did. And definitely cooler than World's Toughest, you know, because it was more of a sense of like, I don't know what's around this corner, you know. It could have rounded a corner and put us in a firing squad for all I knew, you know. It was, and I liked that sense of danger. I liked, you know, as opposed to going on Funky Monkey 2.0, you know. So yeah, I dug it. Anyway, that's my story, and hope you dug it, and that's about it. See you later.